Hi, everybody, and welcome back. So we are looking at continuing our journey in the Wand family. So we're doing the Ten of Wands tonight. So let's study this card. It's a big one. And then we'll be moving on to the next suit next week. Let's just go straight into our scene. A man is showing in this card carrying a heavy burden of what looks like a bundle of wood in the form of 10 wrapped up wands. And he's approaching what looks like a town that's not too far away. Now, the image of the Ten of Wands indicates a person who's probably struggled in life and is succeeding, but he's now carrying the harvest to his destination. It's all about actions. And although he is not near the destination, which we can see in the card is probably the town, it does show that he has probably got to the end or almost the finish of the hardest part of his action, and that is the struggle that he had just to try and find a place to relax and revel in his success. The card shows that if you draw this card yourself, that you've probably already completed the circle of the struggle. And now you're coming to the very last leg of your journey. And after spending far too many resources and lots of energy looking for success, you've finally overcome all of the obstacles. And this is physical, by the way. Remember that this is all to do with action, because we are in the suit of wands, which is action and the element of fire. And we won't be coming onto fire again until we go into the new year, because we're covering pentacles, which of course is us. What's the difference? The difference is quite simply that each element that we actually look at in tarot tells us what somebody is either doing or in the action of, which is the case of wands. Pentacles is what they've manifested, which we're going to be learning about. We've gone through the swords, and that's how people communicate or how they think. And we've been through the cups, which is the emotions. Now, emotions and thoughts and conversations don't equate actions, and actions alone don't actually give us something that is tangible. So we've got to look at all of that. This is a bit like having the sweat on your brow and going, was it worth it? Yes, your efforts are finally being rewarded. And you might find yourself living in a world of abundance when you've completed this journey, because you've worked really hard and you have gone through going without because you put work first. And so this card depicts a lot of responsibilities that's been for you as a person. You've been the sole problem solver in a circle of the family or within friends, and you are the one that's actually held everything together and been able to propel everything into the world of everybody's challenge. And so at this point, you're flooded with responsibilities, trying to maintain your success, trying to complete that goal. And so the businesses that you may have started, taking off, they're gaining flight, they're flourishing, and they're keeping you on your toes. But the main problem is that those issues can be very overwhelming, and we can lose control. So it requires us to ensure how to prioritize and solve what's relevant. And it might sound wonderful and marvelous that we're at the finish line almost, but this card is telling us that it really does equate responsibilities, shouldering the burden with all these responsibilities, even after they've attained the initial success. It's a bit like graduating from college. You think, wait, that's it, it's all done. And then you have to go and get a job. And then you've got to start making it happen in the real world. And we thought that graduating was the be all and end all. More challenges do keep coming. So we can find ourselves looking at taking all those responsibilities on, such as maybe looking after children, starting a family, looking after our parents, and at the same time looking out for others, friends, people that we are working with, our colleagues, and we might feel that we're not as successful as we should be. And it becomes a burden because at some point you'll find that nothing is enough to help you accomplish all of these duties. The general lesson of this card is that people should try and moderate and prioritize and understand that they can't solve everything and that some things they've got to let go, give it to others and share the burden. I'm going to show you some keywords for the Ten of Wands. The Ten of Wands, and it's showing a man with a large bundle of sticks walking towards a small town or a village. It looks like a town. Again, it looks like we've got a stage card here. Our figure is walking on something that looks like a stage because look how flat it is. Having said that, look at the bottom of the picture where we can see what looks like the town, and you can see a line as if it's been pulled down, like some sort of curtain that kind of, has that beading to weight it down at the bottom. So the Ten of Wands is showing this man with his large bundle of sticks walking towards the town, which doesn't look that far away. And his back is bent, and he appears to be weighed down by the heavy load that he's carrying. And he knows that he's almost there. The town is in sight. I'm arriving at my destination. And soon he'll be able to release the heavy weight that he is bearing. Now, the Ten of Wands notes that you're taking on all of the burdens. There may be even extra ones that come in. And it can be a heavy workload or huge or great responsibilities that you have been very good at, and you just keep going. And even though it's weighing you down and things are tough, you're trying to understand this is temporary. It's only for a short period of time. So you're willing to do it because although it's hard work, you'll accomplish something. You'll get to your goal, like the town, and you'll reap the rewards later. For example, you might want to work extra hours because you're saving for something for the family. Maybe it's a holiday. Maybe it's Christmas, Very relevant at this time of year, of course. You may also help people, like your friends. Maybe they need help moving house, and you know that they do the same for you, and they'd return the favour when you move later on. Or you might take care of someone who's sick. Maybe it's a family member, and you've still got all your own responsibilities at home, but you know that your loved ones really deeply appreciate it and they prefer you. So you take on all of this burden. We'll do it. And sometimes that Ten of Wands appears when you are unconsciously taking on yet another burden or another extra responsibility. And we can feel completely weighed down, exhausted, and burnt out. Now, remember with this one, burnout is physical because we are in the element of action, i.e. fire, in the element of fire, which is action. So you might try to do everything at once, even though you know that this is adding extra pressure to your daily life. And keep telling yourself it's only temporary. Now, the Ten of Wands asks you to stop and examine everything that's currently going on. and that's your lifestyle and work. And you've got to look at activities or tasks that are urgent or important, and particularly look at what is the broader picture, and deeply look at the way in which that is, how it's going to affect, how it's going to impact. And you might need to look at some sort of prioritization, some sort of management methods to help you determine where best to spend your time, even though it's probably a very short supply, and which tasks you can actually drop. Your goal needs to be high efficiency, while also freeing yourself up for rest and relaxation when you need it. The good news is that the tens in tarot represent completion. And it's the completion of a cycle when the Ten of Wands it's the end in sight. So you've been pushing yourself to that limit, working really very hard towards your goal. Now you're taking those final steps on the path towards that goal, realizing that your dreams are coming true. So, yeah, you might collapse out of sheer exhaustion in a heap, but you'll get there. And you know it will be well worth it and very much well earned. So the Ten of Wands can also show up when we've been achieving our goals and some significant responsibilities and commitments. And when we reach a point of completion, we can become starkly aware that we've now got to carry on with duties that we've laid out for ourselves, ensuring the ongoing success of everything. So the trouble is that however these responsibilities are, they're becoming far too much to bear, and we're struggling to let go. And it's like a business owner who's creating a flourishing business, but they're not prepared to delegate some of those responsibilities to their staff. And they end up working 70, 80 hours a week. A bit like turning around and saying that one of those high street supermarkets, and we all have them, the person that owns that insists on being in every part of the supermarket and can't grow because they can't be in 2 locations at once. It's madness. You wouldn't do that. Oh, but I need to keep an eye on it. Yes, but maybe the smart thing to do is to be able to look at how do you delegate going forwards? How do we do such a thing? How do we make that happen? So the inspiration and creativity that comes from that initial goal or vision means that everything becomes hard work way too quickly. Yes, that's what we're saying. And I must do. And we end up doing it because it's easier than thinking about it. So this isn't somebody that says yes and then crikey, I can't do this. This is somebody that just finds it easier to keep plodding on and just keep going with those burdens and those responsibilities. So this is essential to let go or delegate some of those responsibilities so that you can free up your life and start to enjoy it. Now, if this comes up in a work reading, the Ten of Wands warns you that you've taken on far too many responsibilities at work and that your workload is unrealistically heavy right now. Often this is a result of micromanaging or refusing to delegate your duties to other staff members. Easy done, isn't it? You simply cannot do everything. And you've got to find ways to share the load. And your colleagues and staff are probably very keen, very eager to help, and very much want to take on more responsibilities. Now, if you're searching for a new job, you might be too consumed in your current work to give yourself the sufficient time or space to find that new job. I think we're all guilty of that one. And sometimes our efforts are likely to be wasted because we're struggling to find a desirable opportunity. Now, if it's a financial reading, the Ten of Wands signals that you've taken on too much debt. Simple as that. And now you're actually drowning in it. So if that came out in a position of finance, that would help you, okay? Incidentally, the courses are all available there to teach you how to actually lay out your spread so you can find what's happening at work, what's happening with finances, what's happening in relationships, which we'll be talking about in a minute. Let's just quickly show you our new courses. I'll be back in a moment. If we are looking at drowning in debt, we've got to realise that if we don't act now, a financial situation might get a lot worse. And if you're in a pickle, it's a good idea to look at getting some financial advice from a financial advisor or debt counsellor to help people out when they get in this situation. So this card can warn that somebody's just coping. Okay. Personality types. The Ten of Wands personality likes to micromanage and struggle and delegate only in tiny amounts. They are the ones that are often talking about how many long hours they have and what huge workloads they're having to deal with. And we all know life can be much easier if we just delegate and reprioritize our activities. The 10 is someone who takes on way too much and doesn't know when to stop or ask for help. If you should see such a person struggling under pressure, then offering a helping hand, you know what, you just got to go forwards and say, look, I'm not going to take no for an answer, because you know that they really feel burdened with responsibilities. I mentioned about relationships and love, so let's talk about that. So if this card comes up and it's in a relationship reading, and this is where a lot of you have asked in the past, what do I do if I get such a card? If this turns up in a reading and someone's asking about love, relationships, the Ten of Wands can suggest that they are so consumed with responsibilities that they neither have the time or the space for a new relationship. Cannot tell you how many times that has come up in readings, and people just do not realize. And that's probably because they've taken on this burden and this responsibility because there isn't that commitment of love in their life already. And they've got to start freeing themselves up again in order to be in some sort of commitment with somebody else. So if you're going to be in a commitment, you've got to be serious about finding the right space in your life and investing enough time in the relationship. And sometimes people they've just packed their lives because something's missing. And when somebody comes along, you'll see this and they'll wonder what's wrong. And it's simply because they've not delegated. They are filling their life with perhaps focusing on other people's things, other people's problems, so that they don't have to look at painful situation, maybe not fixing themselves. It's a case of this person would need to free themselves from those commitments if they're serious about finding a partnership and investing time into one. In an established relationship already, the Ten of Wands suggests that as a couple, they're overcome with responsibilities. And it's all physical action, work, things that they are doing. And they may have young family that demands their time and their energy. or multiple work commitments that pull them in so many different ways and pulls away from the focus of the partner. So the relationship can now be seen as a burden and yet another item on the schedule. And it's just saying that they will need to look at the fact that they need to spend some quality time together. When we look at love with this card, love can feel like a heavy burden when the Ten of Wands comes up in a reading, because it's like other aspects of your life, like I mentioned. It's another thing, work, finances, may be weighing on you very heavily, making it very difficult to be romantic. Maybe you wouldn't take on so much responsibilities if you weren't feeling obliged or burdened by maybe taking on the responsibility of the other person. Sometimes stress can make us feel that the love of your life is just another burden to carry, instead of something that can help you carry your burdens. So if you're attached, don't be frightened to ask for help. It can ease everybody's worries and lighten the load for everyone, and the chance for the two of them to become close because they're working as a team. And if you're single, and this card comes up, it's suggesting not to be afraid of spending time on your own, because they will need to focus on themselves before they can focus on someone else, because it shows that they've come to the end of something that they've been working on, the end of a cycle, and need perspective. They need that focus on them. They need to know how to take care of themselves so that they're ready for reciprocation of the relationship to give, and to know how to actually receive. Spiritually speaking, again, we look at spiritual in the spread that I teach, so we're mentioning this. The Ten of Wands represents a fundamental spiritual paradox, because with enlightenment comes responsibilities. So the spiritual path will also lead to more work that needs to be done. Fortunately, this person is very capable of handling that. And so the more difficult things become, the easier things will get. It's like you're aware of completing one cycle and need to prepare for the next cycle, which is likely to be an even bigger task. It's a bit like turning around and saying, oh, this is marvelous. I've done as I said, I've graduated now into the real world of work. And you've got to train for that, and then you've got to learn how to do it. Or you might be part one of something, only to find that you've got to go on and do exam after exam. Now you've got to keep it up. It's one of those, all right? Thank you for the thumbs up. Okay. What about well-being? People ask about health. Just rephrase it and say, I'll talk about your well-being, and stick to it. We don't do health. We're not doctors. We're not medical. The Ten of Wands can indicate that there's a lot of stress. You don't need... Yeah, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? There's burden, stress. But stress is physical. And that might be backache. Now, we were talking about parts of the body. We went through that the other day. And I think it's interesting that we can know that we're not looking to diagnose anything, but we could actually say, take it easy. You can see you're carrying a heavy load, and that might give headaches, backaches, tension in the neck and the shoulders. And this is all to do with overwork. The headaches coming from is all too much, but the physical side of it would probably be shouldering the burden. And so that's where the shoulders come in. Everybody knows these days that people are suffering with their neck, and that's due to being hunched over your phone, your computer. And so this can all result from overwork. So this card really does suggest that this is completed now. So you've now got to look at finding some ways to relieve all of that stress. You've got to look for more relaxation in your life, and examples of how you can delegate some of the responsibilities to help reduce all of that stress. Given the heavy load that the man in the Ten of Wands is carrying, this card can literally mean, as I said, back pain or injury. So you've just got to be careful, especially if this card pops up, it's saying don't carry anything heavy. Watch those bags, as in when you fill them up at the supermarket. Take special care. Make sure that you are doing something that helps alleviate that, whether it's stretching or massage or anything like that's going to actually help take care of you. It's very real. In astrology and tarot, you will find it does know what it's talking about. And if you look at the picture, it'll probably give you a very big clue as to what's going on. It's a story in the actual card. So the Ten of Wands is a card that represents unwanted worries and ordeals, and it's about doing things the hard way. And it's a time when you might feel burnt out and looking at the fact that you cannot wait to have a change of routine because life is tiresome. And there's a complete lack of joy in all of your tasks that go on daily. Your mood might be so low, and you wonder why on earth certain circumstances are so difficult to deal with. You might be working too hard or adamant about achieving something. You might even be a workaholic. A life loses its shine and its sparkle due to needing to be more focused on what needs doing. Problems are usually self-imposed because the person's taking on too much, too many worries, too many concerns, and it leaves people tired and under stress. And we've got to see our way out of it. And this card brings feelings of being isolated within certain situations. And that isolation is yourself by presuming that your worries are permanent and untreatable, which they're not. And so you're left feeling alone with the weight of all of your problems. Delegating responsibilities, again, can help ease the pressure, but doing so is ignored when the view is that no one can do it as well as you can. And you might feel badly someone else does things, or what will they think of me if I delegate it to them? They'll let you be lumbered and under pressure. I don't mind. You've got to get away from trying to do it all and taking on every responsibility. You just got to say no. And just recognize that you do have a choice. And that if you do say yes, you're probably going to feel that you're a bit of a martyr. And that doesn't make you feel good. It stirs resentment. So the Ten of Wands is a card, but we can look at it and say, we've overstretched ourselves. We've overburdened ourselves. And I put some keywords up for you earlier. And here's some meanings as well as keywords. This is a card of I'm nearly there, nearly home and dry. Keep your head down, keep going. One final push. Success is almost yours. The end is in sight. Overextended is another one. Take it on too much. Maybe this one, which is we've been pushed too far. It's another sentence for this card is, it's the inability to delegate. The weight of the world on your shoulders, overloaded. But you're unable to see clearly when you've got this card. You're lacking focus because you've lost sight. You've lost the way. And although our figure is heading for the town, if we look, his head's buried in the sticks that he's carrying. And exhaustion is probably causing him to just blindly just keep taking one foot in front of the other. But he's not looking where he's going. What if he doesn't notice that he's nearly there and walks past her? Do you know, I've done exactly that. Just as in, sometimes it was the heat. Very hot day. It was in its 50s. I jumped out of the car, didn't really take any notice of where the hotel was. And I said, I'll meet you in a bit. I'll just pop in and I'll go and buy some glasses and I'll get some bottled water and we can sit outside and enjoy a nice cool glass of water in the hotel. And I didn't notice I actually was. I knew I was, but it was so hot and I was so overburdened with numerous phone calls and messages. I walked right past it and carried on walking and walking in the heat thinking, I know it's not this far, but I don't know what's happened. That was the heat and it was also a lot going on, but it's very easy to lose our way. And this is a card of not being able to say no. It can bring about nervous exhaustion, that we can't even rest because we're so burned out. And that again is another big word, burnt out. It's a card that makes us feel that we've lost our freedom. We've lost our spontaneity. So when this card comes up in a reading, depending on the position in the spread, it's pretty apparent what's going on, isn't it? And if you're reading for somebody and they can see the card too, they probably would be able to go, gosh, that doesn't look great. But remember, it's 10. It means it's completion. So it means that too much energy is being used, too much enthusiasm, too much activity, so it took its toll. And we've been guilty of this at one stage or another in our life. I'm sure we have. And we've vowed and said, I'm not doing that again. But this is a card that sometimes we do need to do that short, temporary, back-breaking work because we will reap the rewards of all of our previous efforts if we give it that hard work and that final push. But sometimes it's very easy for us to be so overburdened that we don't even look for a shortcut anymore. And so the 10 of Wands is a card that we're entering the final stages of a project, a task, or a job. That's the town, that's the prize, that's the goal. The end is in sight, again, that's the town. But we are now entering that home stretch where the energy levels are depleted. And so all enthusiasm for projects are gone because physical exhaustion, burnout. And so the workload is very heavy. And all the tasks that we thought we'd actually do once we've completed this task, this work, this project, we're so burnt out that really there is the need to just desensitize, decompress after this. And you need to really take things one step at a time so you don't go rushing into something like this. So it's essential that you look at, if that happened again, how would you avoid the tiredness, the fatigue? How would you delegate it? And how would you not feel so resentful? And this is one of these cards that is true of life, that just when you think you're nearly there, something else pops up, demands its attention, and creates a delay or a setback in arriving at your destination. And that just feels that's just too much. This is where people say, I feel that the universe isn't supporting me. I feel that I'm suffering. I feel that it's never going to end. And I've been at this stage for too long. You might even question why I've even started it. Feel overwhelmed with the anxiety and the stress that you paid such a high price for your quest. And it's a time to make sure that the one thing you do is to be smart and reignite that original passion for this project or task, just like we saw in that Ace of Wands. And we need to make a massive effort and remember that we're nearly there and that the rewards will be immense. Success is going to be better than you've ever imagined because Now's not a time to give up. And yes, we do need to push forwards and accomplish the goal. And when we're done, we can take that well-deserved break. And sometimes we've chosen the multi-challenging path where we're multitasking and made things far more complicated than was needed. And it's essential that we learn from this and look at prioritizing tasks or asking for assistance or saving your energy for timing things of what truly matters, pacing yourself, practicing the art of patience, and you are only human. And when the Ten of Wands comes up, it suggests that you are under tremendous pressure, finding life to be a great struggle. Just so busy, no time to catch your breath or take stock, so you just keep going. And keep going, and as I said, you just put your head down and keep going, and you think, and look at me, I'm doing this, I am marching. But as I said, you can actually not be paying attention to where you're going. You might walk straight past where the goal of the whole journey was to get to the town. You might have so much to do it with that you just do not see it and walk past the town. Then you've got double. A, you're lost, and B, then you've got to physically carry that load again, having carried it twice. So it can feel like an uphill battle, making it difficult to move forwards or make progress. So lessons must be learned with this card in order for priority. It's a physical card for our physical well-being. We can't take on mountains of difficult projects and tasks day after day and saying they've all got to be completed, no matter how tired or fed up we get. That's overwhelming. And it doesn't all need to be done at once. Some of these tasks have been ongoing for a long time, but they've probably never required such effort as what we see when it gets to this card, the 10. They probably started off as very simple things that were very easy to handle, but now they've become larger, they've multiplied, they've grown, and you've got to keep dealing with it all the time when you're already pressed for time. So it can be difficult, and your mind might be so preoccupied with other things that you just keep going and keep giving it your all, thinking that this task is you're going to arrive at the destination, you're going to get there, you will be fine, this kind of thing. So it is important that you might need to just walk away after this is over and look at if there is unfinished business and it's been weighing you down, that address it now rather than let it hang over you. So don't block your own progress. With a bit of effort and renewed determination, you'll be able to pull it off. But you might need to just stop for a moment and think smart. It's not about working harder. It's sometimes about thinking smarter. Then you can put the necessary work in and get it sorted so that you've worked out how you got yourself into this afterwards, but it's now about how to get out of this and then how to avoid getting into something like this that started out probably like a small little obstacle that impeded your progress a little. So you just carried on with a bit more effort and a bit more renewed determination, and then it became overwhelming. That's life. The 10 of Wands often represents the uphill, desperate struggle. And it's a daily struggle, isn't that? Where you suddenly go, oh, I don't know what to do. I've got to pay the mortgage. I've got to clear the debts. And yeah, it can be backbreaking like this card. Multiple stresses and worries are sapping the life energy out of you. And you see no light at the end of the tunnel. However, like many others, you have no option but to keep soldiering on, hoping that it will improve. And you're swamped by so much burden, as is other people, And you feel so much responsibility that you find it hard to look any further than just getting by that day. This is what this card feels like. And when someone says, you're nearly there, it's just all too much sometimes, let alone looking at tomorrow or next week, or someone says, you need a good night out, you need a holiday. That's not helpful to somebody that thinks that is just, they cannot go there because this is such a challenging time. I don't have the stamina or the resources to even get through the day, let alone try and work out what this person is talking about that seems almost like a thoughtless sort of gesture. And that can make you then feel even worse, because you feel terrible that they're trying to help and you're trying to be funny. So the 10 of Wands can really make us lose our way. And it suggests that you're shouldering so many numerous burdens. But do remember that the overwhelmed commitments and obligations and duties, that although you're pushing yourself really hard and you're finding it difficult to cope, you are at a 10, and that's it. And so you don't want to go into something where you're behaving in such a way that you feel that you're forcing yourself to keep going and pretending that everything's fine. Because it feels like there's no relief from working hard and nobody understands. And you might feel that you do the majority of the work and that other people seem to have it easy and that others expect things of you, making constant demands. Not so much about what they want you to do in a work way, but they expect you to show up. Why aren't you coming for dinner? Why aren't you coming for the day out? Why aren't you attending this meeting? Why aren't you? I thought you were interested in this cause or this, whatever it is. You've just got so much on your plate already. You've got to learn to say no. And that's what this card's about. And you need to be able to do it in a way that you don't see it as a sign of weakness. Quite the opposite. You sure as hell, I think of someone that says, nope, you don't. Well, the family might try and do that because they're not used to you doing it. But you just can't expect everyone that knows you well to perhaps believe you when you say no. But the less you say, the more they'll know you mean it. And you'll get rid of that feeling. With this card comes the fact that, let's be honest, it feels like the world's taking advantage of your willingness to help them and leaving you to challenge all the mess because you're good at it and you continue to oblige to complete those tasks because they continue to ask more and more from you. You're so wonderful at this, aren't you? It's absolutely, because the resentment is just building. And you just know that you've been taken advantage of, you've worked it out, and that intense pressure makes it feel then that this becomes more of an emotional thing. Of course it does, because the physical has a holistic impact on all of the body. So the intense pressure, so we can't just say, oh, it's only affecting this person physically, or we're in the suit of emotions, it's only affecting that person emotionally. We can look at where it starts. We can look at why it's happening, emotionally, why it's happening, if it's in the cups, mentally, where it's happening, if it's in the swords. And in this case, overdoing because it's in the wands. But it will actually, don't feel, oh, she said it was all about action, so it just means that this is the whole body. It is the whole body, but the whole body is the point of it's holistic. So if we break this pattern, we'll break down all of this overburden, overwork. It won't be affecting the mind. It won't be affecting the emotions. It won't be a case of feeling guilty. Guilt's the useless emotion. It won't be that we feel that we're unappreciated, or that we are resentful, or that we feel that people are giving us a compliment and they can go off. There's so many people, "Oh, I'll do it, I'll do the food, I'll do the party, I'll do all the cleaning." And they think that people are going to be, oh, aren't you wonderful? Of course they're going to say that. But you've spent week in, week out doing all of this, bending over backwards. And they just turned up and went, "I better say the right things, I better make a fuss. Is it worth it?" That's what you'll be thinking. And you're probably going, nope. Because the stress, the tiredness, and the fatigue have become chronic. And you've lost the ability to relax. And you're burning out so fast that you're now becoming a physical and a nervous wreck. And not literally, but energy levels are very low. And so you've lost your focus, you've lost your way. Fatigue's resulted in losing sight of your original goal. And the rewards that you expected, now you're trapped. And what you feel is a massive burden you've got to keep carrying. And you need to break from that to gain a new perspective, because you can't see straight. Look at our figure. He cannot see where he's going. So you can't think straight. You've overextended yourself way beyond what your body is capable of. Oh, my body's capable of this. So you carry on pushing it, and you'll see what happens. Burnout. And you can't recoup from that. You can, of course, but you're not going to recoup like you think you can bounce out of bed and do it all again tomorrow, is my point. You're just going to keep losing energy. Once it's empty, it takes a lot longer to actually replenish it to full again, like a battery. So you've got to concentrate on the most important and relevant areas. Everything else will have to take a backseat or get dumped. And there's probably people that would be delighted to help you, so don't struggle on your own. This is a card of learning how to delegate. And as soon as you do, your energy returns and your enthusiasm returns. It's often a very stressful time when we've got this, but it's one of those things where you just got to look at the fact that everything in your life, you may have actually made things harder for yourself than they should have been. And so impulsive decisions made along the way probably delayed your progress. But it's a lesson learned, very well learned. So it's a case of, instead of pedaling furiously, take a step back, look at everything. Maybe you're too close to the situation, you can't see the woods for the trees. And you've got to just look at the fact that you are somebody that just needs to learn to be able to say, it's only for a very short time, and learn how to say no. And always be careful when you are working this hard that you do not lose your way. Very easy to do it. When we're stressed out, we can end up getting lost. That was my point. But bad enough that it was so hard, not paying attention in 50 degrees heat, walking 40 minutes longer than I need of. I couldn't tell you the distance. I just knew it was 40 minutes. And then literally, I was dropped off 2 minutes from the shop. Now, how could that happen? I'd been sitting in a car for a long period of time. I wasn't really stressed out that day, but it was all catching up from somewhere else. We've all been there. And if you are in this place, it's only temporary. You make sure it's only temporary in the sense of learn to say no, learn to actually prioritize, like the cards tell you. Okay, that's it for this week, folks. If you want to catch the podcast, what that means is everything is on my YouTube channel. They're all on my channel, Tarot with Anne-Marie. If you want to learn how to read tarot, and don't forget, tarot is an amazing career because you can work in festivals, you can work as in at tarot parties, you can go to people's house to read tarot. can get paid for it, as in on the phones. You can do it at events. You can have people come to your place. You can work for a company. You do email readings. It can be very nice to actually feel that you are really valued for the insight of your interpretation of the cards. And I don't want to say it any other way, because I think that's what we are, an interpreter of the cards. However we do it is irrelevant. But if you need some help with that, and you would like to pursue your spiritual path, then it's a great place to actually have the freedom. And Passionate Sachi is just saying thank you. Anne-Marie enlightened us as usual. Tarot's really, when you actually look at it, it's got some great advice, because it knows what life's all about. And it is. I very much agree with that. So yes, if you want to check out the podcasts, they are called this. There's Learn Tarot podcast, which is this one on Thursdays, where we're going deep. And that's where the playlist is, starting from the Fool, working our way along. So, thank you for your company. Thank you to those that bought the courses, the intermediate, and your feedback about that was marvellous. And the advanced, I know that once they'd done the intermediate, they enjoyed that so much that the advanced became easy. They'd done all the work. Just shows you it's the opposite of the 10. They haven't overdone it. We've gone in and gone, I was expecting this to be hard, but I was such a good student. I've paved the way for this to be easy. Well done, everybody that went and did intermediate and advanced. And those of you that are doing the court cards, yeah, I think there's been a few people signed up for the ones this week as well. I'll see you next week. Till next time, everybody, take care of yourselves and each other. Thanks for watching.